Another
The
home.
other thing that's good about it is drums were made to be played. They're not made to sit in a dark locker.
An all-new episode of The Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.
Welcome to The Jeremy White Show. Make sure you like, subscribe to get more cool content like this. Coming up, I spoke to Carmine Appice, the legendary drummer from Vanilla Fudge, Cactus, Rod Stewart. They got a brand new record called Temple of Blues, which is available now wherever you get your music. It's fantastic. Tons of great guests on there as well. I spoke to him about a bunch of different things, and you can check out the entire interview on my podcast feed. Just search up The Jeremy White Show wherever you get podcasts. But in this part, I just wanted to play you because I thought it was a really interesting thing. So I asked him about Alex Van Halen. Now, Alex Van Halen recently sold off his entire warehouse of gear, dating back to the early days of Van Halen all the way through to what would have been the final tour. And I asked Carmine, thinking about it, all that gear sitting in a warehouse, why do you think he would sell off all of that memorabilia and memories at the end of the day? Is there no sentimental value? Like, is it so? And his answer, I got to say, I kind of agreed with him. Here's what Carmine said, and you can check out the full interview on demand. Just search up The Jeremy White Show wherever you stream podcasts.
I just spent Wednesday, I was in LA. My son got married in Temecula, and I took a ride from Temecula to Hollywood, North Hollywood, where my drum locker is, to empty it with this guy, Don Bennett, that has a Don Bennett's vault to sell equipment. So anybody wants to buy my equipment, it's on Don Bennett vault. 2 N's in Don. Anyway, so.
Well, hold on a second. Talking about that, why you? I mean, look, Alex Van Halen is another notable drummer that just recently sold off his entire warehouse. Drum kits from back in the day. Everybody's doing this.
What are you going to do with it? I saved. I'm 77 years old. I had boxes and boxes of press that I've done in my life. I did Circus Magazine for 8 years. I wrote the thing called Drum Beat, right? I take new song, popular song, and I write out the drum part. I did that for 8 years, every issue, 12 times a year, times 8. What is that? Whatever, the 88 issues. I had 88 of those. I saved every issue, 88 Circus Magazine. That's a big pile.
Yeah.
And everything else that I've done. I had boxes full of that stuff. So what am I going to do with it now? So I threw it away. I got some here. I'm in New York. I got stuff here in New York. I got stuff in Florida. What are you going to do with it? So the drums I got amazing drums. I had a Slingerland drum set. One of a kind is the last thing they built at the Slingerland factory. It's purple leopard painted on the wood. When you open the case, it still smells like paint. I never even used it. It's got 4 bass drums. It got 10, 12, 13, 16, 18, 20 toms, snare drum. And the whole thing is Radio King. You know what that is? Radio King. Radio King, the snare drum costs $2,000. I have the whole kit Radio King, 4 bass drums. So what am I going to do with it? It's on the West Coast. I live in Florida. I don't play it. I sponsored D-Drum. I got a D-Drum kit in Florida. I got one other Slingerland kit where if I need a kit, D-Drum sends it to me. I got one kit of D-Drums in LA, so I'll keep that. I got a D-Drum ES kit, the copy of my Ed Sullivan kit for Vanilla Fudge. I've got a beautiful Mapex Bird's Eye Maple Purple that I used to play with a jazz club in LA. I got stands. I got DW pedals. I got so much stuff. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
I even got some Anvil cases,
Right.
So we went there with my roadie and we went through everything. I got cymbals up the yin yang. I labeled everything. I signed everything. They put it in the truck, sending it up to Don in Seattle, and he'll set it. He's already sold a bunch of my stuff. He's got some classic stuff. He's got like a bongo, a kunga that Ludwig made for me. I'm the only one that had it. And I used it on Cactus. I used it in Vanilla Fudge. And there's some videos with it on there. What am I going to do with it? So I'm selling it. I got a 1924 tom-tom, which is a pedal tom. You hit it, it's a floor tom. You hit the pedal and it goes boom, like a timpani.
Wow.
I got that 1924 one. I got 1940s snare drums. The thing I am keeping is a 1924 Ludwig Black Beauty 15-inch snare drum.
Oh, 15-inch.
Those
Damn.
those are worth some money, so I'll keep that, and I use it in my studio. I got a few snares that I kept. 1969 Ludwig, 2004 Radio King snare, stuff like that. But the stuff in LA, I never use it, so I'm keeping enough for gigs. I do have some gigs in January there, and I'm going to reduce the whole locker to, like a 10 by 10 at a storage place. Right now, it's huge. I even got my King Cobra state set in there where you used to put the amps in there and stuff.
Oh, wow.
I got giant pictures of me and Johnny Rod that were used in the King Cobra video in there.
So
I'm just going to leave those there because what am I going to do with it?
So it just comes down to what am I going to do with it? Like
what am I going to do with it?
It doesn't have sentimental value. You're like, you're okay with letting it go and going to another home.
The other thing that's good about it is drums were made to be played. They're not made to sit in a dark locker or a warehouse, you call them. I mean, I can call mine a warehouse. I always called it my drum locker, But, knowing Alex, he might have a warehouse. He's richer than I am, and he probably has a lot bigger drum sets than I had, But, I'm like, no, I got rid of all my Anvil cases. I gave them back to Anvil and put that in the museum. I had Blue Murder Anvil cases in there. I gave him, I was the first endorser for Calzone cases. I gave him my old Calzone cases. He replaced them with the same exact cases. And the old ones are sitting in their museum in LA. Mm-hmm. I mean, what do I need all this stuff for? I gave a bunch of microphone stands to my partner, Fernando, who we did album, a piece Perdomo project, which is an instrumental album you probably never heard because nobody promoted them properly. But they were great. So he lives in LA. I said, dude, I got a bunch of mic stands. You want them? Yeah, he came over and got them. I can't use them.
Right.
What am I going to do? Ship them to LA, Florida? By the time I ship them, I could buy new ones.
Well, that's it. Yeah. And of course, as drummers, I mean, especially with the career you've had, you collect things for over the years. You probably don't even know you have it in the storage.
There's some things I didn't know I found, but I put in there some cymbals, prototypes. I signed them, but different companies too.
Yeah. So where can people go and buy the stuff?
Don Bennett's Vault
with 2 N's.
.com.
Right. Awesome.
Yeah, that's all good, but it's the bass drums I have in my studio. Funny enough, 1971 Ludwig bass drums, 24 by 15. And you know what that means.
Yeah.
They're unusual.
That's that's a weird dimension.
Those are my Cactus bass drums. And the reason why they're that dimensions, I used to have 26 by 14s. And after playing those for a while, I realized the Ludwig Speed Kings didn't hit in the middle.
Right. Yeah, because the center, it's too short. Yeah.
So I said, let me bring it to 24 and add an inch. And from that, Ludwig started 24 by 16s and added what they call power toms, right? Power toms were longer, instead of a 12 by 9, it'd be a 12 by 11, 13, a 13 by 9, 13
that's true,
by 11.
Because you did see a lot of deep toms, like rack toms.
I did a lot of pioneer stuff. I never used those size drums, but my original drum with 26 bass drums had a 12 by 15 marching drum in the middle, and 16 by 18 and a 22 bass drum on its side, and a 6.5 inch deep snare drum. Those were the drums that started all these big drum fads that are still going.
Yeah.
We used to pioneer stuff with Ludwig. So I'm happy to say I pioneered a lot of things with them. Like they had the Octoplus set, it was one-sided. I said, well, let's put a skin on the bottom. So we did a skin on the bottom. That was my kit with Rod Stewart for a long time. It was on the front cover of my drum book, Realistic Rock, for many years, 20 years probably.
Yeah.
And that started an Octoplus, all these different toms with bottom heads. All this stuff is still going on. You see these drummers with all these toms, all these different sizes. It started with Ludwig.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like you listen to those drums. I mean, they definitely have a different sound compared to, with the toms with no heads on the bottom. I mean, like.
Yeah. It's just attack, mostly attack.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones with the bottom is great. But Cactus, I used everything. With Rod Stewart, I used the Octa Plus kit with the one-headed, and then I went to the bottom head, and it sounded better. I even do the EA system, Randy May mics that went inside the drums with the double head. I pioneered that stuff. I had Syndromes, which I was one of the first Syndrome guys. But it was great. Back in the day, you're pioneering stuff. We were the American Led Zeppelin. That was pioneering. Yeah. There was no other band like that back in the day.
An all-new episode of The Jeremy White Show.
Available wherever you stream.